Welcome, everyone, to the webinar today. We're going to focus on a topic around master data management and how we actually properly protect that data to make many different businesses enable the outcomes that they typically are looking for in these types of capabilities. And so my name is Rob Borrego. I'm Chief Security Strategist with OpenTech Cybersecurity. I'm very happy today to have Greg Bokart, Practice Lead with InStep Knowledge Systems, joining me today, who's going to really get into the details behind great examples of where different types of approaches that they've applied for enabling these outcomes have come to fruition and great value back into the organizations they've supported. We'll cover basically three different areas as we go through here today. So first, again, what does data encryption really bring to capabilities in the marketplace? And really, why should it be a top priority for your organization? The second piece is what's happening as it relates to MDM and Informatica specifically, gaps that we're seeing today with encrypted data. And then we'll talk about a real world scenario. Again, Craig is going to be able to really amplify the story here relative to a financial services organization, very sizable in their current Informatica environment and what they were trying to accomplish and how InStep was able to actually make it happen for them. So as we jump in, one of the things I wanted to start talking about was really what we're seeing with organizations as it relates to the need for securing their data. And if you think about many of the different security breaches that are happening out there today, majority of it always focuses on the attention of how does the attacker ultimately get to what they want, which is the data. The data is what they can take back to monetize. There could be customer information in there, employee information. There could be intellectual property included within that information. So there's all sorts of kind of this treasure trove of what they're trying to get their hands on and then take back and monetize that data back to whatever realms that they are taking advantage of. So when we think about this, we're not talking about kind of the tactical, what I'll refer to as foundational good hygiene security, right? You think about those things as kind of the firewalls, IDSs, and all of those things that we've done for many years. That's the blocking and tackling, and they need to be put in place. There's no question about that. This is leveling up, though, to think about from a security perspective and how we emphasize and focus on what's most important to each organization, the data, how are we properly protecting that information? How are we preventing the security breaches that have occurred from actually happening? Taking different examples, you pick your poison, right? T-Mobile, one of the more recent ones out there, is another example, right? They come back in through different areas of opportunity. But if we can really harden that data to the point where basically where they may get their hands on it, right? We're not necessarily going to stop them from getting into the environment. We're not going to always stop them from actually being able to take data out of the environment, right? But what if they took the data out of the environment and it wasn't the real set of information? It may have looked like they had this treasure trove, again, of customer data with names, addresses, social security numbers, could be credit card information, could be intellectual property, as I mentioned earlier. Looks like they've gotten all this great data, but it's not the real set of data. So it ultimately continuously protects on an ongoing basis that organization and their environment and their customers, their shareholders, their brand, all the elements that, again, at that top level business perspective, the board view is most relevant and important for each of these organizations. And again, we're going to talk about just how Craig was able to accomplish that with InStep into a very large financial services organization that was at the core of what their concern was as their transition to taking their data out and into the big, wild cloud environment, if you will. So to kind of get us started, Craig, I want to turn it over to you and give us the kind of foundation of what you're seeing out there. Maybe you could actually take it at kind of a basic level to start and describe really what MDM is, the value of MDM for the audience, kind of level set, and then go from that point forward. Craig, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Rob. So let's start with MDM. MDM is often considered a company's most important and also its most sensitive data asset. And with the great migration of MDM and data in general to the cloud, the security stakes are even higher to keep data protected. And as you stated, it's no longer an if situation for companies. Letting your data sit in the clear, no matter where it resides, is just asking for trouble, in our opinion. We also have to keep in mind that as a data asset, master data is only useful when it is consumed and utilized by company business applications, marketing systems, and analytics. So companies shouldn't have to decide between protecting their master data or using the master data in enterprise level to drive their business. That's what drove our development of the in-step encryption framework. The in-step encryption framework, or IAF as we call it, solves a very important gap with Informatica MDM's ability to process encrypted data. We designed IAF to manage the communication between MDM's API layer and the voltage encryption agent. This allows a company to utilize all Informatica MDM capabilities with Voltage's format preservation and attribute level encryption, and to do so at an enterprise level, bringing all the value you mentioned earlier regarding data encryption while also maintaining the full capabilities of Informatica MDM.
So if you kind of double click on that a little bit, Craig, right? There's organizations out there, there's many organizations that have, different MDM solutions. We're explicitly talking about Informatica in this example, which is a very, very large, player in that space. These organizations are all going through this kind of transformation, right? They've been doing that for a couple of years, and they're identifying concerns, gaps, potentially, on what happens when that data actually is now being shifted up and into these cloud environments, right? How are we ensuring that we truly are still able to protect it the way we have in the past? And how are we still enabling also the outcomes that we desire? You mentioned several of them, right? And extending, this data set, again, in a secure manner. It could be, right, not just what they do for their own business entities and internal use, but also how they actually share information, business to consumer, and all of, again, that kind of core. And when I refer to it really as that full data lifecycle. And how do we protect that full data lifecycle all the way through? So it doesn't matter, right, if the data is actually at rest, if it's in use, if it's in motion, right? So all those kind of three key areas are completely covered at all times to protect the data for the organization, for the end user, and again, really focus on the business outcomes that are desired. So maybe what we can do to start kind of really amplifying how that came to reality is delving into that example customer and that large financial service organization, kind of start with, here's where the problem statement was and kind of the journey you took them through with the framework approaches you were discussing, and more about that framework and value that the audience can take away from it.
Sure. Let me share a little bit of information about how InStep and OpenText partnered to deliver an MDM encryption to one of our recent clients. Now, I was directly involved in leading this project for InStep, and as you know, they were an Informatica MDM client. However, this client was looking to make a larger cloud migration, and we're in the process to move other systems and applications to the cloud. The first priority was actually their data warehouse, which, like MDM, contains sensitive customer information, and that information is fed from MDM, right? It's used. So OpenText was able to solve this with a Vertica database implementation that utilizes voltage data encryption. Next was their MDM system and the hurdles we needed to overcome with Informatica's data encryption support. InStep focused on several areas for the development of the IAF so our clients could have an MDM system that could support enterprise-level data encryption. Okay, first was the format preservation encryption we mentioned earlier. A common objective for an MDM system is to publish master data to downstream systems, like a data warehouse. For this use case, our client had encrypted keys, along with their encrypted data attributes in their Vertica data warehouse. Format preserving encryption allows the data warehouse to use its change data capture logic when consuming that master data. It eliminates the need for having to decrypt the data to apply the delta detection logic. Data can flow from MDM to any downstream consuming application while maintaining attribute level encryption. There's no reason to decrypt it. There's no reason to put your systems at risk to do this type of logic and processing. Second was the ability to master data with the encryption. Informatica MDM has a powerful API layer that allows business applications and user interfaces to search and match data in real time. The IAF bridges the communication between the MDM API layer and the voltage encryption agent. MDM needs that data to master, and now it can consume data that is encrypted. IAF allows us to match and merge in encrypted data in real time. But what about our business users? The IAF allows them to search for master information that's encrypted, utilizing MDM's fuzzy search logic, and then returning that information decrypted for analysis. Lastly, the IAF powers the in-step migration utility with encryption. As previously mentioned, our client was looking to move MDM and their applications to the cloud. However, they needed a secure method of achieving this migration. Our migration utility utilizes IAF to move master data from an on-premise solution to the cloud in a secure manner where data is encrypted throughout the migration. Data is never stored in the clear during transmission. For MDM migrations, our migration utility will maintain the golden records, the cross-reference information, and all that historical data that's necessary for merging, unmerging, and data analysis that comes with master data management.
So Craig, then all the referential data integrity maintains is what I'm hearing, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so this large financial service organization, again, had the understanding of the risk associated to this transition to a cloud offering, if you will, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I guess I want to ask this question of you. Were they looking to any internal capabilities of Informatica first and saw that it just didn't exist, or maybe it wasn't kind of good enough for what their desired outcome was?
So what they were looking for, you hit on that. They're looking for internal capabilities of Informatica MDM. It has the ability to allow you to service business applications. They had custom user interfaces where users could manage that master data. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, they needed to publish information downstream. That's all done through Informatica's API layer, right? The API layer inherently, and those services don't work with the encrypted data and the format preservation. So the IAF comes in and helps us manage that, right? Helps us talk to those business applications, helps us, supply data to our business users who need to merge and manage customers and information in real time, and then service those business applications downstream. What we're basically allowing them to do is you can have encrypted master data, but you don't have to compromise your day-to-day business functions. You can still run business as usual, as you would if the data was in the clear.
Okay, good. So you achieved all the outcomes. They did their homework, obviously, to figure out, could they take the existing investment and the new set of investment to move to the cloud and use inherent capabilities, not so much as to what their desired outcome was. You guys stepped in, said, here's the solution. The IAF came in, the framework came in, I should say, and was able to solve those problems for them. So again, solve the business problems, solve the business user issues, as well as you said, that was another key outcome that they required. So full stack, and obviously that flow of information all the way across for referential integrity was covered as part of that as well.
Correct. Yes.
Good. So sounds like a lot going on. Sounds like it could be pretty time and resource intensive. Maybe you could kind of break it down for us and give us a lay of the land, like, timing wise, what was involved, maybe some key stakeholders, just kind of what did it take to ultimately deliver on the outcome?
Yes. So you're correct. It does sound like a lot. And I know there are assumptions. Oh, wow. I hear all this is going to take a long time to do this. For our particular client, we completed our migration and then started the IAF, the real-time processing, in about 8 weeks. And that's from the point of initiation, starting our project, to delivering it to prod, getting them fully converted and migrated over. I will tell you that a typical implementation would take between 90 and 120 days, but depending on the complexity of the MDM system, sure. The volumes of data that they have, the number of custom processes, user exits, user interfaces, and the number of business applications that the MDM system is tied into. So I will tell you that with this client, we ran through it. It's a very efficient process. and it is proven now. And that's why we're very excited to talk about it with you today.
Good, great. I think that's a great timeline, obviously. But as you said, right, there's a bunch of different variables that come into play, each kind of organizational scope with their use and the data sets and everything involved, the resources it may take to but again, it sounds like it comes down to the efficiency of the framework you've been able to create and apply, right? So being able to leverage technology from us as a partner of yours with voltage capabilities, but mapped into obviously the execution, they're kind of in the middle of what you've created with that framework to actually really make it come to fruition again for that customer need. So that's a great success story, and it's going to be out there. It's a difficult customer to work with, right? They expect a lot, as they should, given who they are. And again, if you think about it, right, even going to and understanding that the inherent capabilities aren't up to the standards of that organization tells you a lot right there. But again, this is a seamless approach that allows many organizations to take advantage of it and potentially extend it into additional use cases as well. So I think it's a great capability that you brought forth. So one of the things we want to do is really open it up for customer and audience conversation and questions on what Greg has shared. And so go ahead and start putting your questions in. I know a couple have come through. We're going to get to those here. But again, I just wanted to say, Greg, is there anything else that you kind of call out as a key lesson learned in going through that process with that large customer?
Yes. One thing that comes up a lot with MDM is that you have to have the right stakeholders. You have to have the right people on the business side that are willing to kind of drive this, right? In the MDM world, we talk a lot about your data governance organization. That's definitely a key player here. But in the world of MDM and encryption now, it's very important to talk to your security officer, your chief security officer, your security team. That was something that we learned on the way in. We've done MDM for many years now, and now we have a little bit of a different audience because we want to make sure we adhere to compliance and their security regulations, and now they have a seat at the table. That's something I would say is, anyone thinking about taking this journey, don't wait to get them involved. I mean, that was something that we all learned, us, the client, OpenText, waiting for them to come to the table, because you may have to redirect, you may have to do certain things differently further down in the project, right? We want to get that up front, right? We want to get those requirements up front, get those compliance regulations and build it the right way. So that's a new wrinkle to the MDM journey with encryption.
Yeah, I think you call out a very key component of this, and this is something I've seen in similar, yet a little different types of use cases. So to your point, we're seeing all different types of organizations saying we have to figure out how we're taking our large data sets and whatever types of environments they're in today, right? These different data lakes, if you will, and shift them up into the cloud. There's a lot of more efficiencies we can gain. We can actually, in some cases, better consume the information that are coming out of that, and actually better insights will derive from that because of some of, again, the efficiencies we're gaining from the newer technology. Okay, great. There's also, this need of, hey, what type of data will be up in the cloud environments are going to need to be shared potentially among other business partners, right? Information exchange. And so how do I actually share that type of information in a protected manner, providing the visibility of specific elements of the data to the business partner that they should be able to see and only see, and not the greater picture that we see holistically, right? And I think what that drives at is your point right there, which was the security audience is a key stakeholder in that conversation. And what I had seen probably going back 2 years ago is when a lot of these kind of different cloud initiatives really were starting to bubble up is the kind of traditional IT infrastructure teams were racing to get to the cloud and then not thinking about the ramifications of security and risk associated in compliance and regulatory requirements, as you mentioned, right? So when the security stakeholders were brought to the conversation a little late, if you will, they started peeling back the onion and kind of poking the holes of, hey, listen, we can't take on those risks and those security elements. And to your point, it's so critically important, as you just stated, to ensure that they are part of the conversation up front, because that's the opportunity that you also have to say the greater capability we're deriving is not to just move the data in an efficient manner up to the cloud. It's to do so in a way where it truly is being secured, protected, and enabling you to solve problems and concerns around compliance and regulatory requirements. The other thing is The chief privacy officer could be part of those conversations, right? Kind of check the box to say, we do have these things covered and you now have visibility and you have controls around that. And I think the bigger potential stakeholder who gains a lot of value on the approach that you're taking is the chief data officer, right? Because they have that kind of, here's the need of what we're doing for the business. That basically is, we own the data. We need to drive more value out of the data. How can we drive revenue out of the data? How can we drive better insights for our internal capabilities? And so them being at the table as part of this is very critical as well. So I think you hit the nail on the head. That security needs to be part of that conversation. The other kind of players typically are, but when you bring them all together, this just looks like, wow, what a great efficient model I can actually apply for Informatica and potentially other capabilities that InStep could associate and help with. So that's great. I'm going to transition us to the Q&A. We've got a few questions here in the queue, so let me go through and take a look at the first one. And it says, I think we might have already answered this, so if you don't mind, Craig, just kind of re-answer and maybe a little bit more color behind it, I guess I would say, is the question, I thought Informatica already had encryption. Why do I need IEF plus voltage?
Okay, good question. Informatica has a tool called data masking, okay? They do have, it's built into their MDM 10X version, even their 9X version, but it's data masking. It's not the same as data encryption. It does not support the format preservation of keys, or for data attributes to do delta detection. And that encryption technology is proprietary to Informatica. And we can't use that downstream, right? We can't lend that to other applications. And one of the big things that we're trying to solve here is enterprise level data encryption. Nobody wants to have one encryption method for MDM, another one for their data warehouse, maybe another one somewhere else. We're talking about applying encryption technology like voltage across the enterprise, right? Wherever that sensitive customer information or other proprietary information lives. So that's why we're bringing that in. The reason for IEF now, as I mentioned, is it does a couple of different things. Format preservation is not supported for Informatica MDM, and it doesn't inherently support the API layers. That's both SIP and the business entities. And that's where IEF does handle all that, handles all the application calls, and communicates with voltage.
Okay, great. Thank you for going through that in more detail. Appreciate that. The second question is IEF only for Informatica customers, or is it agnostic to the MDM platform?
So we have developed it for Informatica MDM. It is right now developed for Informatica MDM and its support with voltage. However, our R&D team is working on opening that up for other Informatica platforms. We do have a roadmap for 2023 and 2024 with other Informatica or other MDM platforms, I should say. Right now, Informatica MDM, future, it will be agnostic to other MDM platforms.
Yeah, I think you guys have set the stage, right, with kind of the bigger player in the marketplace. Yeah. You got that taken down. Now you can go through and extend that. And it kind of goes back to question one, which is, as you stated, it's an enterprise level capability. You don't want these one-off types of solutions that you have to keep on managing, more resource, more cost associated to it. So again, this framework approach really scales very nicely. And then we've got one more question here. So it says, we're considering Informatica SaaS. Is IEF something we can use for our SaaS platform?
That's a good question. That's a popular question. Right now, the Informatica MDM SaaS platform doesn't support any level of encryption. We work very closely as an Informatica partner. We work very closely with Informatica and their MDM team to kind of understand what the roadmap is for SaaS and when encryption, data encryption support software like Voltage will be available. So we don't have a timeline for them right now. The best thing we can tell our customers is if you're considering this, stay on the 10X platform and host that in the cloud. And that's what a lot of our customers do. But the SaaS platform is not supported at this time. Hopefully it will be in the future, and we'll be able to support that as well.
Okay, great. Appreciate the answers to those questions, Craig. We'll leave it with everyone in this way. So I hope you took away a lot of great information on the value of what InStep has actually applied with the IEF framework, their partnership with Voltage, and enabling, again, a very sizable organization out there to achieve, how do we protect the information as we're moving to the cloud environment? You've had some great questions around other platforms, truly, again, to the value of how you extend that capability beyond what Informatica, for example, has embedded in with data masking, as Craig gave you information on. Want to point you to a couple of resources here. So on the bottom left is the slide that you're seeing. You can take a look at the links associated to what InStep Knowledge Systems has as a greater capability, but also, again, what we have within the data privacy protection capabilities, which is the Voltage solution. So how we partner up. And then over to the right, as you can see, I'm sure other people are going to have questions coming out of this during the replay if they're looking at it for the first time. Extend yourselves out to reach the InStep team. They've got the answers for you. They've got the details around their IAF framework. Very simple approach, a lot of value that you gain out of it. But again, we thank everyone for joining us today. We hope you took a lot of value back out of it and can consider working with InStep and us at Voltage within OpenText for solving these particular problems within your organization. So thanks, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.